Alright guys, so welcome back to Bailey's Bleacher. It has been quite a hot minute since I've last recorded. But life is busy, but we're back at it. So stay tuned, we're going to talk all about the Super Bowl today. So let's talk about the Super Bowl. First of all, it was boring. Basically up until the fourth quarter and overtime, I could have lived without the rest of the game. Even the commercials were kind of average, and the halftime show wasn't even really that good until the end. But football-wise, let's just break it down real quick. So the first quarter was really just a bunch of back and forth nothing, in my opinion. You guys could have been watching a different game. But it was just a lot of punts. It was a 49ers fumble that started off the game, and then a Chiefs punt, and then a Niners punt. And then it ended with another Kansas punt. So then the second quarter was almost exciting. The 49ers had an 11-play drive, and Jay Moody was able to hit a 55-yard field goal, which was the longest attempt in Super Bowl history, but we will get back to that. So after that field goal, the Chiefs fumbled after 6 plays, but the 49ers didn't capitalize on that at all. And they ended up punting after a very short-lived 5-play drive. But then the Chiefs had an even shorter drive, and they forced a punt. The 49ers forced a punt within 4 plays of the Chiefs' drive. So, I'm out of breath. I feel like I'm speeding through this. It's been a hot minute since I've talked to my camera. I promise I talk to people. But anyway, so San Fran then scored on a 9-play drive with a trick play, which is where things got a little exciting, right? So Brock Purdy threw a nice little crossfield pass to Jennings, who then threw it to Christian McCaffrey for a 21-yard touchdown. Moody hit the extra point, so it was 10-0 for the Niners, which was pretty cool. So then the Chiefs got into field goal range on a 15-play drive, and Harrison Butker nailed a 28-yarder. And then the 49ers had a 2-play drive, and they let the clock run out into halftime. So it started to finally pick up right at the end of the second quarter. Then, the halftime show happened. It was whatever. I was really hoping that Usher would start with a little, yeah. But he didn't. The first, few songs, I was kind of this is really boring, but whatever. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about some football, right? So the third quarter was a little bit more exciting as it started with an interception, right? So Patrick Mahomes' deep pass, who was intended for Valdez-Scantling, was intercepted by Jay Brown at the Kansas City 44-yard line. But this wasn't capitalized on at all. So the 49ers ended up punting within 5 plays, and so it's kind of was it not necessarily great offense, or was it just decent defense? I'm not going to be the judge of that. You guys can make your own decision on that. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs hater, so I'm always just going to pretend that they're not doing well. So then Kansas City had a 4-play drive right after that also resulted in a punt. So now I'm going to pretend that it was really good, 49ers defense, because anything anti-Chiefs works for me. So then there was another 49ers punt right after that, so my theory is kind of but the Chiefs finally did something with their drive, and they got into what can now be called field goal range in the Super Bowl. So Butker attempted a 57-yarder and nailed it. This broke Moody's short-lived record for the longest field goal in the Super Bowl. So this was also kind of neat, though, because, not only was a record set in the Super Bowl, but it was also broken. But anyway, the score now, it was 10-6 for the 49ers, so they were up. Then we had another 49ers punt, followed by a Kansas City punt. However, on this Kansas City punt, the 49ers were going to just let it bounce because it was in pretty good area, right? But it touched one of the 49ers' hands, and that rules it as a fumble, and Kansas City recovered it on their own 19. So it was pretty tragic, right? So within 2 plays, Patrick Mahomes hit Valdez-Scantling again for a 16-yard touchdown. And Butker's extra point was good going into the fourth. So it was 13-10 Kansas City. So now, my 49, they're not even my 49ers. I was just rooting for them because I will root for whoever is going against the Chiefs. So my 49ers, right? The fourth quarter started off with a 14-play drive, ending with a 10-yard touchdown pass from Purdy to Jennings. The extra kick was blocked, which I feel like is pretty rare nowadays. So that obviously didn't happen, and it was now 16-13 for the 49ers, so they were up by 3, which isn't a big lead, but it's a lead nonetheless. But it didn't last, whatever. The Chiefs ended up tying the game with a 24-yard field goal, and then on the next drive, Moody hit a 53-yard field goal for the 49ers, and that got them back up to 19-16. So again, they lost their lead there for a hot minute, got it right back. But it didn't last long, because the Chiefs answered and they tied the game 19-19 with a 23-yard field goal. And this sent the game into overtime because then on the 49ers' next drive, they were only 2 plays in and the clock ran out. So then overtime rules happen. They retoss the coin or whatever, and it basically starts a brand new football game. So overtime started. The 49ers received the ball. The Chiefs won the toss. And they wanted to get rid of it because, basically whoever has the ball last in overtime essentially wins the game. So smart on their part. So the 49ers had a 14-play drive that ended with a 27-yard field goal from Moody. This only put them up 22-19. So at this point, you're really relying on your defense because what else can you do? You don't have the ball anymore. It's done, basically. So all you can do is hope that your defense gets a stop. But the Chiefs also had a 14-play drive that ended with a Mahomes pass to Hardman for a 3-yard touchdown, ending the game 25-22 as the Chiefs took the Super Bowl win for the second year in a row. I am winded today. I just got back from the gym a little bit ago, so I'm going to blame it on that, but geez. So my thoughts on the game overall, it was boring in the beginning. And I'm just sick of seeing the Chiefs. I don't know what made me anti-Chiefs, but it was whenever Mahomes started, I just didn't like him, and then this whole Travis KELCE thing with Taylor Swift drives me up a wall, so whatever. So then the NFL showed Travis KELCE after the game, and he didn't even score, and I understand he's a popular player, but maybe show Hardman, who literally just won the game for you guys in the end zone, right? Or maybe the kicker who broke the record, but no, we're just going right to Travis because money. But, Travis ended up having 93 receiving yards, which is great, whatever, but those drives were mostly on, those plays were mostly on drives that ended in punts, so it's kind of meh, whatever, but the media loves him, he's dating Taylor Swift, that brings money. I thought they ended up showing Taylor Swift a lot more than I thought they did, and then they came out with a report after the game that she was only shown for 53 seconds, but those were the longest 53 seconds of my life. And again, I understand why they showed her, that broke into a whole new crowd, and it's bringing them a ton of money, but from a football fan standpoint, it's not starting, it was annoying the whole season that they started dating, whatever, yada yada. It was annoying at the Super Bowl, but it's over now, hopefully, which probably not, but I hope it's over. Good for them. I'm glad they're dating, whatever. Keep it to yourselves. I don't want to see it anymore. I'm sorry, I'm such a hater. I'm also tired, so. But one thing that I always get, genuinely sad about after watching something like the Super Bowl is when they pan the camera to the losing team during, when the confetti is falling, and there's just all these, sad clips of all the players who lost. They're either, crying or they're just sitting there, no expression and just kind of taking it in, we really just lost that. It's pretty sad. They were just so close to winning. Mr. Irrelevant almost won the Super Bowl. But hey, his season was incredible. Purdy was last pick in the NFL draft, and he got his team all the way to the Super Bowl, and they only fell, one drive short of victory, really. When you put it into perspective, if they would have gotten a touchdown on that drive, or if they would have even, had better defense right there at the end, which Mahomes gets on, a roll, in little situations like that. He just goes. I know they were doing it for the sake of time, but they were just going. Like, they weren't stopping and doing any play calls. Like, they were just running, right? They were throwing the ball, running the ball really quick. Everything was fast. They had plays ready to go. And, that's pretty normal, like, for football, obviously. But, it's hard when you get up against someone who is Mahomes or like Mahomes in that situation where he can just go and turn it on. And it's kind of hard to catch up with that. So, I'm sure we'll see Purdy, though, in the 49ers in the playoffs again next year, and maybe even the Super Bowl. Who knows? Maybe they'll run it back. But that's all I really have to say about the Super Bowl, besides almost one of the most important parts, actually. It's another KELCE comment, I know. But I'm sure you did, it's everywhere, but, like, did you see when he pushed Andy Reid on the sideline? Like, are you literally kidding me? Super, super immature. He got all up in Andy Reid's face. He was yelling at him. He was shoving him. And, like, honey, Andy Reid is not only your coach, but he's your elder. Like, you don't act like that. Whatever. But, like, the situation basically was KELCE wasn't in a play, and Isaiah Pacheco, I think that's how you say his name. I usually butcher names, so don't quote me on that. But this guy, Isaiah, who was in for him, he fumbled the ball on a pretty important play, right? Which I get completely. It's a big deal. But, like, if KELCE was in and he dropped the ball, he fumbled, I could bet money on it that Isaiah wouldn't go up to Andy Reid and push him and yell at him. You don't do that. KELCE did make a comment after the game, and he said, "I'm going to keep that between us unless my mic'd up tells the world. I was just telling him how much I loved him." Which, in my opinion, is not even remotely funny. Like, I know they're trying to keep it light or whatever, but I think we should leak that mic'd up. I want to hear how much he actually loves Andy Reid. Because I bet he didn't love him very much in that moment. Reid ended up playing it off too, just like basically saying that he doesn't think that others will follow in KELCE's actions because they shouldn't. And it keeps him young, which I mean, they probably just didn't want any negativity right after their big win, which again, I totally get, but like, I'm not going to forget this, and honestly, there should be consequences for those actions. I don't care that it's the end of the season. I don't care that it's the Super Bowl. If that happened to anyone else, like, there are even players, like, tweeting about it, like, saying, like, if that was me, I would have been suspended, which is probably true. But, KELCE brings in the money, so probably nothing is going to happen. It just adds to my reasons to dislike things going on with the Chiefs. And then on the New Heights podcast, Travis's brother, Jason KELCE, he did actually call him out on it, which was kind of nice. He said, "You crossed a line, let's be honest. I think there's a better way to handle this." And then Jason also said it was definitely unacceptable. I got that wrong. And KELCE said it was definitely unacceptable in response to Jason, and he wished he could take it back. And, I think everyone wishes, that could have been taken back, but it happened, and, now they're just going to have to move on. But that's just enough of my negative critique. But, I mean, again, I'm not in the NFL, so, like, they're doing better off than I am, but I'll still complain. I'm a complainer at heart when it comes to stuff like that, because I can. Like, I'm the one watching it. Like, I don't want to see Andy Reid getting pushed. Like, you don't do that. No, you really shouldn't do that. But that was kind of all my comments on the Super Bowl. Another thing I want to mention is, it literally just happened tonight, like, right before I was going to start recording. At the parade, there was a shooting. I think they said now they'd updated that there's 22 injured. There's at least one dead. It's extremely upsetting. I can't even imagine when you're trying to celebrate something. Your city is trying to celebrate this massive win. And I don't know what comes over a person to just be like, oh, let's start a problem. So that's obviously very upsetting. My heart goes out to everyone involved in that. Yeah, it's awful. And it's kind of hard to, like, talk about anything else, like, after the fact. Like, I was watching, it was, like, ESPN or SportsCenter, like, whatever was on, and they were like, well, we were going to update you on this, and this. However, this is all we can talk about. Like, this just happened. It's a major deal, and, like, obviously it's extremely tragic. yeah, and so like now for me, now that I'm bringing it up, I'm like I have nothing else to talk about on this podcast because how do you talk about something else after talking about that? But yeah, so the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. A crazy ending to the season. Obviously, no one thought it would play out like how it did today with the shooting and everything, but I hope all those people end up being okay. I'm so sorry, like, for everyone that has lost someone, obviously. Yeah, so, oof, that's rough. So yeah, that's all I have for today for Bailey's Bleacher. Tune in next time. We're going to talk about some more sports.